Hello, I'm going to show you what I've added to Steve's Factory Manager after ModJam. So I'm going to assume that you know what Steve's Factory Manager is and what you can do with it and what the features do. If you don't know that already, then you can simply go and check out the previous video when I described everything well you could do with Steve's Factory Manager at that point. The point of, well, just after ModJam finished. So without further ado, I'm going to start and do some things here. And yeah, I have some other mods installed. I'm using the Double 20 pack with Steve's Factory Manager installed together with that. Actually, what I'm going to do is show you all the new features in the order I added them. So we'll start with the things I added just after ModJam, and we will finish with the things I added yesterday. You can see a lot of more commands here, well, buttons than in the previous video, but we'll get to them eventually, so hang tight. Right, so I'm going to start with a very small thing which is quite useful, and actually we don't need the output for that. So if I take a look on this input here, I'm going to set the chest there. I'm going to set that side to be active. Oh, there we go, that's fine, right? Apparently not. So when you connect a command with, well, with another command, that means that it's in use. If you just have a command floating on its own, it's not in use, so then we don't bother. But if it is connected, it's going to show us errors. So it says the whitelist is empty. Why is that an error? Well, if a whitelist is empty, that means that, well, we don't accept any items at all, so why have this command in the first place? We can go in here and set it to blacklist, then the error disappears. We can also go to whitelist and select an item. For instance, iron. And it goes away. So, obviously it can't tell you that, oh right, you shouldn't have picked iron, maybe you meant to have gold. It can't tell you those things. But it can tell things that are pretty obviously wrong. If you have an empty whitelist, you won't accept anything at all. Another thing that it will tell you about is if you don't have any sites selected. Or no inventory, so it can tell multiple things. So if the command here is connected to another command and there's no error here, then that means you've fixed everything that the command itself can detect being wrong. Like I said, maybe you selected the wrong chest, it can't detect that for you. But if you fix everything like this, then you will see it disappears, and it's very easy to see. So maybe we have this complex system here. Now I'm just going to set this up here as well. A bit weird, I guess. Like so. And then you, yeah, it's working fine, and then you accidentally break that chest and replace anything. Alright. Oh, right. So then you can check. Oh, yeah, no inventory selected because we broke the previous one. There we go. Now that's fixed. Now that's fixed. So it's very easy to see something is wrong here. Maybe I forgot to set up the target, or maybe the chest broke, and so on. So it gives you a nice overlook like that, but it doesn't do anything else. It's just for you to see. So even though it's a warning there, it's still going to try to do things with an empty whitelist. So without an inventory, it's going to try to do things. Obviously, nothing will happen because it has nowhere to get the items or put the items or wherever. Right, so that's the first thing. I actually meant to add that during ModJam, but I just ran out of time. Right, so the next thing here, we can take a look. Let's do it like that and that. So first, I'm just going to set up something very simple here. That's going to allow us to move items from the bottom one, Y level 4, to the, well, first we need this. I'm going to move one piece of iron, like so, to the output, and the output is the top one, Y level 5, and an empty blacklist there, so that's fine. There you go. So every time this trigger is activated, it's going to move. There we go. It's going to move one piece of iron, like so. 1 every second now, because that's the default. But that's not what I want to show. What I want to show is if we go into redstone control like that, we will now have 2 extra menus. We will take a look at the redstone sites now, and we will take a look at analog redstone a bit later. So redstone sites here, and I'm going to select just the west side. The west side is this side like so, so that's why. And then I need some components here. There you go. If I pull that lever, it will move 1. Just to show you, like that. So now it's 10. It was as a number there. But if I go over here, you can go off. So we have 10 there. If I pull that, it will stay at 10. If I pull that, it will go up. The reason? Well, this is the west side and this is the east side. So, well, it won't trigger it because we're just looking for west. If we're looking for west and east, then that will trigger it. Now we're on 12, and that will trigger it. Now we will have 13. However, this, which is the north side, won't do anything at all. Like so. And then we can go in here and we can tell it, well, we want both the west side and the east side to be on for this to happen. So if we have 13, and now we have 14. So this doesn't matter, that's not selected or anything. Worth noting is, as you just saw, I pulled this west side first, and then I pulled on the east side, and that's going to trigger it. So you don't need to like pulse these on the same well, at the same time, just because it's a high pulse and then we have all the sides. It means that it will happen when a pulse on one of the selected sides goes from low to high, while the signal goes from low to high, and then all the other selected sides do have a high signal. And for the low pulse, then we need all the other sides to have a low signal. So it's done like that, even though that might not be the first way you would think of it, because, well, on high pulse, all sides should pulse at the same time, but it's more useful than forcing you to pulse both at the same time, because then it won't detect like this. Right, and that's pretty much it, but I want to note one thing. If we hook it up like so, it's moving them just fine, because we have no signal. And just to show this properly, I'm going to go back to the default settings. Right, so this is the default settings. It's moving items still. Let's stop it. Nothing happens. Why? Well, we're looking for a low signal and we have a high signal. Shouldn't that stop it? Well, what we're looking for is actually not just a low signal. We're looking for a low signal at any of these sides. Well, here we have a low signal. That's fine. Move items. Go on. If I give the red signal from all sides, then it's going to stop. But how often do you do that? The easy way to solve it is hit requires all. Now this block requires all the sides to be low. Is that the case? No, it's not. Here we have a high side. So turn that off. And now all of a sudden it's moving them again. So just note there that usually when you work with the low signal, like the default things, it might be a good idea to hook it up with the requires all here, because otherwise you need to power all the sides to turn it off. And that's just how it is. So just to think, a thing worth thinking about when you set it up using the low signal there. Right, so that's the redstone sides. The next thing we will talk about is quite cool, I think. So set that like so. 2 chests, and then that one there. I'm going to use these two as inputs, both of them, and this is the output. So will I use 2 input commands? I don't think so. So let's see. That's the output one, and then I select both of them. That's totally fine. So now we can select multiple ones. And then I'm going to grab it from the bottom, and let's go with iron, like so. So I specify 1 iron. And then I'm going to output it in my output chest. And that's the 1. And an empty blacklist. Right. So now I will move iron from both of these. So I will have to fetch me some iron. Like that. But it's not moving anything from here. But it's moving anything from there. Why is that happening? Well, this is what happens. We tell it, run a shared command once. The command itself tells us to move 1 iron. A shared command means that it can access all the inventories selected. Once, obviously, means it's going to run it once. That's going to tell it, grab 1 iron. You have these chests to work with, and go ahead. And then it goes to the first chest, and, well, here we have some iron. Then it's going to take 1 piece of iron, and then that's fine. If we can't find a piece of iron, it's going to go into another chest. We can see that by removing some of these iron ingots. So now we ran out, and that means it's going to start to grab it from here. Because we are always going to try to get 1 piece of iron. How? Well, we have access to 2 chests, just take 1 at a time. However, if we put some of these back, And then if we go into here and tell it run command once per target, then that's going to mean that this chest, then we're going to run the command. What is the command? Well, move one piece of iron. And then we go here. What's the command? Move one piece of iron. That means that we will remove one here and one here, which is going to give us 2 here at a time. So as you can see, it's increasing by 2. So you can define whether you have, well, you run the command once or multiple times. Worth noting is you can select more. You can select many more. So just select the amount you want, and then that's fine. You can do the same thing with the output. You can select multiple outputs as well, and you get the same options like so. And when we work with the conditions, we get even further options. So now we can do it in 3 different ways. Run a shared command once. Let's say the thing here is, let's go with iron, because that's what we have done so far. And then I'm going to look for 10 pieces. I'm not going to hook this up or anything. I think you will get the idea anyways. So 10 pieces of iron. So if we look in these 2 chests, what it's going to do is, do we have 10 pieces of iron here in total? So maybe we have 8 iron in one chest and 2 iron in another chest. Well, then that's fine. Of course, we can have 10 in both, and that's also fine, because that together is 20, and 20 is obviously more or equal to 10. If we do this one, then we need to have 10 pieces of iron in every single chest. So if we have 10 in this one and 20 in that one, then it's fine. If we have 5 here, but 3 million in the second one, we can't have that many, but never mind, then it's not going to be enough, because we just have 5 in the first one, and we want to have 10 pieces of iron in every single chest. Of course, we can go with the last one as well, which well, makes it enough that we have 3 million in this one and 5 in that, because one of the chests needs to have this condition to be true. However, it won't be enough if we have 5 in one chest and 5 in another chest, because, well, that's 10 in total, but here we require one of the chests to actually have the very specific amount that we're looking for. So 3 options there rather than just 2, but I think you can figure out exactly how it works, because it says so. Run a shared command once, require all targets, or require one target, like so, like I just described. So that's the multiple inventories, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it works fairly well. If you want to move multiple well, items from multiple inventories, then you don't have to set it up one input or one output for every single one. So that's fairly useful. The next one is quite useful, not as useful as that one. Oops. And I will cover it quite quickly. I don't know, we don't really need that, because I'm not going to run anything now. I'm just going to set a lot of things up here. What we have is this thing here, the collector. It says flow here because we can configure this so it's not a collector anymore. The collectors are the ones with multiple inputs and just one output. So what we can do is something like this, for instance. So like I said, I'm not going to run anything here. I'm just going to show how you could configure it. So maybe like this. And of course we will get plenty of errors here. Like, oops. Like so, something like that. So now we will trigger this one. We'll grab some input from somewhere, some input from some other place, output some items, and then if we have any items left, we'll go through this flow, this collector there, and then we will output it like we have specified there. And here we just go grab input and go there as well. So if you want to reuse commands, basically, so you can have like different starts but similar ends. So I can create another output like so. Maybe we want to have this no matter what we do in whatever path we take here. So it's an easy way to collect things, because you can't connect multiple pins here to the input here, so you just collect them. So it's the collector. You can go and say that we want 5 inputs instead, which is totally fine. There's no real con for that. It just looks a bit weird if you only need 2, so that's why we have a 2-1 or a 5-1. If that's not enough with 5, then you can obviously chain them together. So maybe we just do something like this. Like that. And the bottom one there can obviously be a 5 collector as well, which allows you to get even more, and then you can have even more up here too. So if you want a lot of things here, then you can do that. When I changed this amount of pins to 5, you also saw probably 2 other settings. Those are the split ones, and we will take a closer look on them later. That's why this says flow and not collector, because those are both there as the flow controlling commands. So the commands themselves don't interact with the outside, it's just controlling the flow. Right, so before we go to the split ones, I'm going to go to what was added next, which is pretty cool, I think. Nothing too weird about it, but it's definitely handy, and that is the fluid support. So I'm just going to grab a few things. So let's grab an empty bucket. That's going to get handy. Some destabilized redstone and some oil. There's no reason why I have these. I could use any fluid. So if I put, I don't know, 3 tanks like so, and then create a trigger here. And yeah, let's use a normal one. And instead of these 3, input, output, and condition, I'm going to use liquid input, liquid output, and liquid condition. I'm going to tell that now, and I'm probably going to repeat that multiple times. The liquids works exactly like the item ones in most aspects. I'm going to show some examples to show that that is the case, and we'll also see some differences while I'm doing so. But most things that you can do with the items, you can do with the liquids as well. So I won't go in depth with most of the things. So the previous things that we saw, well, the things that we saw previously, that we can, for instance, use multiple inventories, is the same here. You can use multiple tanks just fine. You have the shared commands and so on. So most things are the same, but yeah. Oh, actually, one thing worth mentioning here is, well, obviously the chest won't show up with the tanks, but you can of course still use the chest here. So even though we use some liquid stuff here, we can still like work. We can even do that, even though it's going to complain that, yeah, you know, no inventory selector and stuff. But yeah, this should actually complain that it had no target, but I guess I forgot to add that for the liquids. So that's one thing that differs. It's not complaining. It should, but it didn't. I'll add that. Okay, so now, as you saw, we had the tanks here instead, and here we have a bit different. We have the simple mode and the advanced mode rather than slot IDs, because, well, the tanks don't have slots. So if we go into advanced mode, we can specify only output in an empty tank, or only output in a tank that is already partially filled. Why is this useful? Well, maybe we want to move lava, for instance, and we want to put it in a tank. Maybe you want to put it in a lava tank, if there is one. So we have a tank full of lava, with some space left, of course. Then we want to put it there. There's no reason to output it in another tank that is completely empty. We can use that for like oil or water or whatever. So if you have filled tank, then you force it to go into a tank that is partially filled. If you have empty, you force it to go into. I can't click that. Weird. You force it to go into an empty tank. But that's weird. I'll take a look at that as well. So then you force it to go into the empty tank. But usually you simple mode is enough. But yeah. Right. So then we have an empty blacklist there, and here I'm going to. Did I pick that tank? No. That should also go with the blacklist. So I'm going to start like that. So just a simple chain of these things like so. And what I'm going to do now is show you that if we put liquids in here, it's going to go into first tank there. And then if I put oil here, it's going to try to go there, but that's already full with redstone. So therefore it's going to get put in there like so. Very straightforward. Like I said, working similarly to the items. But of course I can go here, whitelist. And then we can do redstone. And then we can select redstone here. One thing worth noting is you can actually do all here. If you type all of it will show all the different fluids. Quite a lot actually, 69. This might change, this keyword, in the future, because now you can't search for something that actually is all. Of course, if you continue typing, it's going to well, search for it properly. But I might change it so it's like .all or something like that in the future. But for now, it's all. So it's quite handy to just show them all. So now we will only move that. So now if I put some redstone there, it's going to move it there, no problem. If I add oil, it's not going to do anything with it because that's not on a whitelist, so don't move it. So I'll have to remove it manually with my empty bucket, like so. And well, let's do this as well. So now if you right click, as you can see, it's a bit different from the items, but it works pretty much the same. So we can't tell it to be fuzzy just because, well, the liquid, well, doesn't have the metadata in the same way, or the damage value in the same way that the items do. So you can't tell it to be fuzzy, and then when you specify the amount, you can tell it the amount of buckets and the amount of millibuckets. Let's go with 1 bucket actually. So now it will move 1 bucket at a time, like so. Or of course, what we could do, like I said, is to maybe go with 1/4 of a bucket at a time. So then we can do that. So now it's moving 1/4 of a bucket every single time. Right. Let's go with an empty blacklist. Right. So what we can do now is, of course, go over here and give it a whitelist of redstone and specify the amount to be 5 buckets, like that. And let's empty this out. So now if I add it here, it's going to stop moving it when we have 5 buckets of redstone over there. So like I said, it works the same way as the items do. So you can do the same thing with the blacklist and whitelist on the output side and the input side. You can specify things with the condition. It's working the same way. You specify requires all or if any. You specify the amounts. You know, specify the size and select the tanks, and you can select multiple ones, like just like I said. So it's pretty much the same as the items. You select tanks instead. The target is slightly different, and then this menu here is also slightly different, and that's pretty much it. So that's the liquid one. I think it's fairly useful, even though you usually move items, but at times maybe you have a oil pump or whatever, then you might want to move liquids around. Right, so now that's done. Now it's time for the split command. We saw them. Let's see, yeah, let's do it like this. We saw it's a part of the flow control, so we have the collectors and the splitters. And what I'm going to do is tell the input chest, that's going to be this bottom one, I'm going to tell it to move a piece of iron. No, actually no. Let's go with a blacklist, an empty blacklist, like so. And to be able to control this better, I'm going to tell it to be redstone controlled, and yeah, that's pretty much it, like so. And then what I want to do is add this split here. So we have collectors, multiple inputs, 1 output, and we have splits, which are the opposite. 1 input, multiple outputs. But this is more complex, so we have a menu here. We'll get back to that very soon. But what I want to do is create 1 output here to go into that chest, and then 1 output for the other chest there, like so. Okay, so then we connect them like this, and we will see what's going to happen. So what I want to do now, did I connect it? Yeah. So what I want to do now is grab some iron. That's the wrong iron. Where's the normal iron? It's not here. There you go. Blind? No. Right, so now if I flip that lever, it's going to move all iron here, and nothing. So that's very weird. Why would we need to use this? Well, basically, when the flow, when the split is configured like it was, then basically what it's told to do is the following. It doesn't do anything else than doing this. So why would we use it? Well, it's easy to see what we mean with what we want to do here. We want to do it like the following. So yeah, but it's weird to just have it like that, just for it looking nice. I mean, it's nice to have things structured, well, in a nice structure, but well, I hope there's more to it, and of course it is. So let's click split mode instead, and as you can see we get more options, but more to those later. So now if I flip the lever, put these back, 32 will go there and 32 will go there. Right, so what just happened? Well, it took the input buffer, which contained 64 iron, because we moved them in here, split it in two, so 32 iron along this line and 32 iron along this line. Right, then they just output to their chest, so 32 iron each. Pretty straightforward. We can take a closer look on that by going in here, set a whitelist to iron, ingot, like so. Put the phone down on the screen now. To, let's say, 10, like so. So now this one is set to 10 iron. So what will happen then? We will only accept 10 iron there. What will happen? Well, then we should have 54 iron in the other one, right? 32 and 10. And here's the rest. It's there. So what happened? Well, we have 64 iron in the buffer. We go here to the split. And then what? Well, 32 iron over here, 32 iron over here. That doesn't mean that they have to output all the iron. That means they have access to that amount of iron. So then we tell this guy over here, well, output it all. It's fine. And that's why we get 32 iron in the end here. But to this one we say only accept 10 iron. And therefore it will only accept 10 iron. However, if we go back here and then we go into this split here and tell sequential, then it's going to go here first and then here. So therefore, we'll get 10 iron there and 54 there. Because, well, we're not going to split it up. We're just going to have different paths here that it's going to take in a sequence. So first this one, we give it how many iron pieces it want. And apparently it just wanted 10. So we have 54 left and then we can give it here. So when we had sequential last time, the first one here just accepted all. And that's why we didn't receive anything in the second one. But if we go with split mode, each path will get an equal amount of items, and then they can do whatever they want with it. This one didn't accept it all, but it had access to the 32. I said equally. That brings us to the next thing. So now I just remove the limit here, and then we can go with a split like so. What happens if I give something it can't split properly? So 63, that's not even. We have two outputs. Flip it. 32 and 31. So if we don't have an amount that we can equally split, then the ones in the beginning, the first inventories will have well, higher priority. They will receive fast. So this is picking 32, but then there's just 31 left for this. So they will only, the difference will always be maximum of 1, because, well, they can evenly split the rest. However, it's a bit unfair, right, that one of them receives more than the other. Well, if you think that, then you can head into here and select use fair split. That means that they will, you guessed it, get 31 for each. Where's the final piece? Well, we couldn't fairly split that, so that's left in here. So there we go. So if you select the fast split one, then it will make sure that an equal amount goes to each and every pin like that. But we have one more option, to include empty pins. So to show that, we can go into connections here, and as you can see, we have an option for 5 outputs as well. Like so. When we work with the collector, having more outputs didn't do any difference at all, like having empty pins here. And it doesn't do much of a difference now either. So now if I do 64 there, and then flip the lever, then we will get 32 in each anyways. So it doesn't matter, it's just splitting them between the different pins that we actually have anything at. So this doesn't do anything unless, you guessed it, we click include empty pins. So now we have 5 pins. It doesn't matter if there's something there or not, we have 5 pins split in 5 different pieces. Then this pin will receive, well, 1/5, this will receive 1/5, this will receive 1/5, this will receive 1/5, and this will receive 1/5 as well. These pins won't use them for anything, of course, because there's nothing there, but yeah. There you go, 12/12, which is, well, as close to 1/5 as you get, and the 40 pieces are still there. However, if we go back to include empty pins, then these won't be counted, so then we just split it in 2. Of course, if we want to fool it, we could like add something like this. We could add an empty input like so. Now it detects that there's something there, but yeah, so now we'll split it in 3. Like so. 21, 21, and actually 22. The reason why there's 22 here is because the last piece was 21. We used a fair split. That means that this is left behind. But now that we didn't manage to evenly split is left behind, but also the 21 iron that goes into here, because we're not going to use it for anything, so therefore we don't move it. So you can't fool it to think that we want to split it in 3 by just adding something random here, because now it's connected. But like I said, if we click include empty pins, then it's going to count all the pins no matter what. What you actually can do is the following. So if we go into connection, split 2 outputs, and then like that. Now we're going to split it in 2 pieces, and we get half of it here. Where's the rest going to go? No, nowhere, but that doesn't matter. So you can do it like this as well. That's totally fine. So that's the split ones. Pretty useful when you want to split items between outputs and so on. And of course it works with liquids as well. It's going to split the liquid buffer as well. So that's that. The next thing we've seen already, well, we have seen the menu for it, but we haven't seen it in action. So, do I have any iron? I don't know why I'm using iron all the time, but yeah. Right, so it has to do with the redstone. So we have the redstone sites, we're going over that, but we also have the analog redstone, so we'll have to take a closer look on that. And as before, when I test things with redstone, I'm basically going to tell it to move 1 piece of iron each signal, or well, each time it's triggered. It's a very easy way of seeing how things go. So specify amount 1, like that, and that's going to go into the output, which is the one on top. And on high pulse, that's the easiest one to test with. Right, so now if I add 1 stack of iron like so, it's not going to do anything. If I add, well, let's add it there, and I flip that, and all of a sudden we will have 1 there. I flip again, we'll have 2, and so on. So nothing special. But now if I go in here and go into analog redstone, what will happen? Well, it tells us that we can select which range is valid. So I say 1 to 15, that's fine. Okay. Let's say that only 14 and 15 is valid. Okay. Pull that. Oops. Little of lag. Never mind. Nothing happened. Come on. Do it. Why isn't this working? Well, we can use Wireless here to actually help us with that. As you can see on the top of the screen, we get some extra information there. A very useful mod. So we can actually see that the signal in the end here is only 12. That's not good enough. We actually only asks for 14 through 15. So 12 is not strong enough to trigger this. However, there you go. So now we have a signal of 14, which is strong enough. We can actually even do that. So now we have 12, now we pull it, now it's 14, and that moved an item. Or did it? I think it did. Let's double check that. Yeah, there you go. It moved it, like that. So when it goes to the required amount, it's going to trigger it. And we can actually even do the opposite. We can invert the selection, so we can tell that 14 and 15 is not valid, but the rest is. And this might be a bit weird how that works, because it's not going to move anything now, and that's because we're just looking for a higher pulse, right? And for a higher pulse, the signal must be low to start with, but the signal is already high. Why is the signal already high? Well, think about it. We're telling 14 and 15 is invalid. Well, 0 is valid now all of a sudden, so all of these sites supply it with power. So that's going to be a bit tricky. But we can say it to while high signal to take a look on that easier. So now it's going to move things. Why? Well, 0 is valid, so that's a high signal all of a sudden. So you can specify a lot here, which might get a bit complex when you combine them in weird ways. For instance, this invert selection might be helpful, but it also might be a bit confusing. So if you don't know what you're doing with that one, leave it alone. But we can take a closer look on that. So it's easier to work with if we just select the west side. So now it's going to move things because 0 is totally valid. But now if I pull that one, it's going to stop. Why is it going to stop? Well, 14 is not a valid signal for a high pulse. Why is that? Well, that's how we define it, so that's that. basically. But if I remove that, it's going to move that, and if I pull that one, which is just 12, yeah, then that's going to be just fine. That's going to move it. So why is this good to have? Well, in this configuration it's not really, because we can just say that 0 to 13 would be valid, because you can actually start it at 0 here. Of course, it says that 0 to 15 is quite a redundant strength range, because that's all the different strengths, so there's no reason to have a redstone control there. But if we go like 0 through 13, that's going to do the same thing that we just did. However, you can't do that otherwise. So now we're telling that 0 through 11 is fine, and 14 through 15 is fine, but 12 and 13 is not a proper range. So now we actually managed to move the whole lot. Now it's going to move those things there because we have a signal of 14. If I remove that, it's still going to be fine because we have a signal of 0. And 0 is fine because it's just 12 and 13, which is not. So if I pull that lever now, we will have a signal of 12. That's a number we don't want, and therefore it's not going to move anything. If I pull this one, the signal is strong enough, so it's going to move them. If I pull these two, the signal is weak enough, so it's still going to move. So it's a bit tricky to use the invert one, but it's useful in some very specific cases. So if you don't know exactly what you're doing with it, just leave it alone and specify the ranges you're working with. So keep in mind that if you invert it, it's probably going to include the signal strength of 0, which might be a bit odd. But yeah, so you probably want to use these two when you work with that. But of course, in some scenarios, these pulse ones also work with those. You can actually, it's a bit weird what you can do. You can do it like that, and then you can set it to like 1 to 15. 1 to 15 is invalid. So we're looking for a high signal, a high pulse, but we just inverted what the highest pulse is. So now we're actually looking for a low pulse. So you can do quite a lot of weird things by combining them. So by just using the analog signals and the size and so on, it's pretty simple. But then if you combine them in weird ways, it's going to be a bit complex. But it's fairly useful. Then you can easily talk to it. As you just saw, we can control it with 2 levers here from the same side, and then you can do the same thing from the next side and the next side and so on. So it's very easy to like talk to, I don't know, other mods that send out signals, like Computercraft can do analog signals, I'm pretty sure, and plenty of others. You can use the comparators with hoppers and chests and whatever, and daylight sensors as well. Maybe you want to trigger this command when it's a specific time of the day or whatever, so you can do quite a lot with it. Right, and now we only have one thing left, and that's what I added yesterday, which is actually a new block. So this is the inventory relay, and the way you make it is basically you put a inventory cable together with a hopper. So you just put them together and that's fine. One thing worth noting, even though this looks like a inventory cable and it's a part of the an inventory cable is a part of the recipe, it's actually not a cable. I can detect the chest there, but I can't detect this chest, because this is not really a cable. It's an extension to the cables, so you can't really relay a signal there. But you might have realized it's there, so we can select it there. And another thing that we will see is it will also be here. So an inventory relay is both an inventory and a tank, which is a bit odd, but more to that later. What I'm going to show now is how we can use it on its own. So I'm going to grab a hopper here and then take a look. So what is an inventory relay? Well, the inventory relay has an inventory. Well, it tells us that it has. And it has a tank. Or, well, it tells us that it has. Does it really have that? No, not really. It won't contain any items. We can't, like, open it. We just place other ones on top of it. We don't actually have to shift right-click. We can just right-click and place things there. So it doesn't really store any items nor any liquids, but it still tells us that it has an inventory. The reason why is because it's an inventory relay, and this side here is its front side. As you can see, it's getting placed differently depending on which direction I'm looking. So if I put a chest here, all of a sudden, like on the front side, all of a sudden, this inventory, this block tells us that its inventory is this. It's not going to move things there. It tells us that that's our inventory. So if I do something like this, and drop redstone there, it's going to go in there. Why? Well, the hopper is going to move its item to the inventory relay. What happens then? Is the inventory relay moving the items there? Like I said, no. That's not how it works. The hopper thinks that this is the item, the inventory it's moving it to, just because this inventory relay is telling us that this is its inventory. And the same thing works with the tanks. So if we would set it up like that, oops, that's the wrong thing, like that, and then we have a tank here, and then we pump things into this one, and it will go into the tanks there. But it's easier to show with items, so that's why I'm showing it with items. Another thing we can do is the following. So if I have a hopper, well, let's put it like that. Let's put it like that. Oops, that wasn't what I meant to do. Where did my chest go? So what can hoppers do? Well, they can grab things from the top. What inventory does this inventory relay have? Well, nothing on its own, but it tells us that this is the inventory. So the hopper is grabbing things from the chest. Why? Well, like I said, it's relaying the inventory. Can we do more advanced things? Well, I think so. Can we connect them together? You sure can. There you go. This one is the... Okay, so what's happening? Okay, the hopper tells us, well, when it has an item, I need to find an inventory to put this in. It's looking here, because that's where it's connected, and it asks this block, can I get access to your inventory? And it says, just fine, here it is. And it asks this block, give me your inventory. I'm in dire need of a inventory. And this one says, okay, here's your inventory, moves over here. And this says, well, here's your inventory. And this finally says, well, my inventory is just over here, obviously. And then the hopper accesses this. Like I said, it's not moving the items through here. It's telling the hopper, this is the inventory you should access. And that's exactly how it works, which is quite useful. And you can do quite a lot of weird things there. These are compatible with sided inventories. So if we go and grab a furnace, a ton of furnaces due to all the mods. If I do like that, so what's going to happen now? Well, if I want to put it from the top, then we can put it from the top. Now that's from the top, and so now if I add a chest there, it's going to go in there. I don't think you can add things from the side, right? Because that's the output. Yeah, so you can't do that. So as you saw, if we try to add it here from the top, it was just fine. But if we try to add it to the side, then it's not going to go in there. Why? Well, this side is the... Actually, that's the... Which one is that? I always forget. Yeah, that's that one, I think. Yeah, so it's not going to work there, because now it's trying to access it from the side, now from the top. So it doesn't matter how it's connected here. It's the hopper asking about the side over here, and then it's just relaying that there. So why is this good? Well, let's go and take a look over here. So if I have something like this, I can put that one over there or something like that. Now, when I set up this system here, I go with the trigger, and then with the input, I can select that one as, or actually that's my input, like so. Remember these things? There we go. And then I create an output. Now I'm going to select this as an output. There you go. So what happens now? There's no block there. Okay, that's fine. Nothing is going to happen, actually. I want just there. Because, well, there's nothing here. It can't relay anything. If I add that there, a chest goes there. Why is this good? That means that I can break blocks and still have access to them. Remember, previously, if you connect to the chest right away, then what's going to happen is, if I break it, I'm going to lose track of it. But now I'm relaying it from this block. So, for instance, now the mods come into play. A turtle. That's a block. It's not an entity, actually, how it's coded. So, if this turtle, if we want to give it that items, we can't really add it to the system. If we put the turtle there, then we can totally fine just select it here. But as soon as it moves away, we lose its connection, and therefore we have to manually add it again. However, by having a relay here, it's going to access this turtle here, and, well, the turtle can move away. Then, when the turtle comes back, it's going to get connected again using the relay. So we're telling the relay, well, the manager here, that the relay is our inventory, and like we saw over there, it's just going to relay until it's, alright, the turtle here, that's totally my inventory, and that's going to work like so. Is that everything? Well, remember, it works with tanks as well. So I'm going to grab a portable tank. it might be nice to fill one of those up. So then you just place it like so, and then we have a connection. So I'm just going to have an input here. Actually, let's do here we go. Put that there. These are just a creative version that are always full. So now I create another trigger here, an input. Let's grab it from the creative portable tank, like so. No whitelist, we have a blacklist instead. And then I select the, not that output, it's what the pretty right one. There we go. And our output is obviously the relay, like so. Connect those two, and it will fill up with liquid there. When it's full and we're ready to go, then, well, since I'm in creative mode, I'm just going to do it like that. So now I've picked it up, then I can go away, place it somewhere else, and then when it's empty again, I can come back and refill it again. So obviously, previously you could connect to it, like we saw with the turtle, but by doing it like this, it doesn't matter if we break it, because we're actually talking with the relay rather than the inventory. Of course, it's totally fine to connect them directly, but by doing it like this, we can move things around. But it doesn't really end there, because this is more useful than just that. So what we can do is doing it like so. Actually, let's build a new system here. So what I'm going to do now is the following. We put that there and that one there. Okay, what is this? We're going to work with tracks. Yes, indeed. The inventory relay also works with entities. That means that it can access inventories of cards, or actually tanks of cards. That's totally fine as well. So actually, let's get some railcraft stuff going here. Like this. So I'm just going to tell it to move here. Actually, right, you can't do that. Here we go. Just a simple track around like this. There you go. So now when we get a redstone signal, what we can do is simply listen to a redstone signal. If we want to, we have seen that we can shake for the top side only, but that doesn't really matter. And when that happens, I want to create a liquid input. Let's grab some input like so. So obviously this would be your liquid input. So then we grab the liquid from there, and then we set the target to down, a blacklist, let's go with that, and then we create a liquid output, and that's going to be the relay. Obviously it's tricky to select a card in here, because that's always going to move, and that's an entity, so we can't select it in the first place. But by doing it like this, we're going to tell it, well, try to move it to the try to move it to the relay, and the relay is just going to look here, and when we receive a redstone signal, we're going to have a tank card there, because that's what I'm going to give it. Did I? Yeah, no, okay, I set it up properly. I thought I set it up in the other direction. Come on. And there we go. We just moved some liquids in there, because each time it activates here, we get a redstone signal which triggers the system and moves the liquid to the relay, and the relay is looking at that very tank card. Of course, if we had an inventory block here, it will access that instead, but the detector rail has no inventory, so it's getting the card instead. And this works with chest cards as well, and of course it works with the Steve's cards as well, if you so wish to use it like that. So then you could actually use it, since those cards can have both tanks and chests at the same time. You can just set it up like, well, like this. Totally fine. And then you specify a chest here. We don't really have an input. Let's grab one. You can reach it like that. So then we grab chest here. Bottom, let's blacklist that, and then we just select that one there. So it can work with both at the very same time. There's nothing wrong with that, and I just chained them all. That's perfectly fine. So now we would obviously we can't move any items into that card because it has no inventory, but if it had, it would move them there as well. So the inventory relay is very, very useful, the first extra block that has been added. But more things will come in the future, because this is everything for now. Redstone emitters will be added. Those I've already started working with. Basically what they are is a way for you to tell them to output a redstone signal, so you can add that block like over here, and then this manager here will tell this one to send out the redstone signal, and you can define how strong it should be, which side it should be on, and so on. So basically what you could do is, well, if I see an item at a specific spot, using the condition I could increase the signal, because it's just not only set signal, you can increase and decrease the signal and so on. Then auto crafting will probably come eventually as well. That will take some longer time, and some accumulators, which might seem quite abstract with me as saying that, but you will see that in the future as well, and probably some more advanced conditions as well, so you can maybe detect redstone signals in conditions as well, rather than just in the triggers. Probably some more advanced triggers as well, maybe things with sunlight and whatever, like if people are nearby, or I don't know, we'll see. Plenty of things will come, because this mod has great potential, I do think. But for now, that's pretty much it. We'll leave this with this card sitting around here using some new mechanics. But that's pretty much it for now. Goodbye and good luck.